What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and it is the story that just keeps on giving. As soon as you think you've reached a point where the news coverage of Bryan Kohberger and the Idaho 4 case has slowed down a little bit, like we get a day or two where there's not really much information coming out, and then bam! We get overloaded with all types of stuff, and as someone who's covered plenty of cases in the past, I gotta say that this one is like a treasure chest of information. It's like every couple of days, you just reach into the chest and you got all of this new information. From search warrants being unsealed, to countless people speaking out that knew Bryan Kohberger. And I'll tell you what, as someone who has been described as an introvert, as someone who has been described as having a hard time connecting with other people, as someone who has been described as having a hard time making friends, Bryan Kohberger sure does know a lot of people. Or at the very least, a lot of people sure know Bryan Kohberger. I've never seen a case where this many people speak out about the suspect. We've heard from dozens of people, past employers, teachers, professors, people who knew Bryan Kohberger in kindergarten, someone who dated Bryan Kohberger on Tinder. I mean, we've just heard from all types of people. But the Idaho 4 case was a case that I followed basically the entire time. Not as closely as I follow some cases. And the reason being is I didn't necessarily cover the Idaho 4 case until they arrested a suspect. And I did that on purpose, and I will tell you why right after we watch this clip. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Who has the latest for us on the case against Bryan Kohberger and reaction from a neighbor of those victims.
Hey, good morning, Julie. I'm here on the campus of the University of Idaho, where just 4 months ago, 4 students were brutally murdered steps from campus. It rocked this community and this campus, and now the university is working to help students heal and move forward.
You mentioned the university is creating a memorial in honor of the victims. What will that mean to the students there?
I think it'll be a nice way to remember the 4, or even take their children, if and when they have children, and be like, I was friends with these people, they were wonderful, they died too young.
Jeremy Reagan is a University of Idaho law student and lives a few doors down from where Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were murdered. In the weeks after the stabbings, Reagan was accused by web sleuths as being the killer.
For some people, it was definitely worse than others. I know the various Jacks and Jakes, they got hammered up until the day that Kohberger was arrested. And for a while, I got it, I want to say bad, but compared to them, it was mild. But it was relentless. It wouldn't stop. No matter what you did, it got worse. And so eventually I learned just ignore it, be quiet, and it'll pass when someone gets caught.
When Bryan Kohberger was arrested on December 30th, it was a sort of vindication for Reagan.
Now all these people can stop blaming the friends, the exes, the parents, because I know some people blamed the parents. It was nice that someone was finally arrested so that people could stop speculating about all the random people that are just tangentially involved.
As the victim's family and friends, along with millions who follow the case, wait for the preliminary hearing, everyone hopes for answers.
Why them? Why that house? Why that night? Just all of it. Hopefully, either through the court documents or maybe a deathbed confession at some point.
A preliminary hearing is much like...
So he basically described why I chose to stay away from this case until they found a suspect. Because one thing I've realized about the true crime community is there are a lot of good people here that really care about these victims. They care about the victims' families. They want answers. They want justice. there's also a lot of people who are interested in the whole process of how these things go down. And it's entertaining for them, and I understand that. But we also have a fraction of people who turn these true crime cases into modern day witch hunts. All they do is they get online all day and point the finger and just blame anybody and everybody. It got to the point that some of the victims' parents were being blamed for this crime. Any and everybody who lived anywhere within the vicinity were blamed for this crime. And it's not just like, oh, some random person on YouTube says, yeah, I think they could have done it. No, they dig up these people's past. They dig up their jobs. They call into their jobs. They act completely insane. So even though the Idaho 4 case was a case that I really wanted to cover from the beginning and I really wanted to dive into, I chose not to, because I knew that we were dealing with young folks here, and I knew that the true crime community was going to go out of their way to blame random kids for this crime and try to ruin their lives, because that's what they do. We have a lot of miserable people in this world who want to make other people miserable, so they get online and they do things like this. It happens in every single case. And this dude that we just heard speaking, he shouldn't have had to gone through that. It's traumatic enough that your neighbors just got brutally unalived in the middle of the night. You know, something like that happening to you so close to home, it's going to rock the very foundation of your world. I'm sure these people aren't sleeping the same. These people probably aren't even viewing the world the same way that they did before this crime took place. So they're already dealing with enough. And then they have online hate mobs who will just for no reason, no evidence at all. And these people think they're detectives, which is something I always try not to do in my videos. I don't come on these videos and pretend to be a detective that's going to get down to the bottom of what happened here. These, not all, but a lot of these other true crimers, they do that. And the reality is most of them are complete idiots and they never get to the bottom of anything. All they do is find, oh, who lives close by or who's their friend, and then they harass them 24/7 while painting fake narratives in order to get your attention, your views, and your clicks. So I watched for weeks as people harassed anybody and everybody that was close to these 4 victims. I watched it play out, and I chose not to be a part of it. And I may make the same decision moving forward in other cases. If cases are going to involve young people, and the true crime community isn't going to have the balls to speak out against the portion of true crime community that likes to do stuff like this, then I'm not going to be involved. There are other more important news stories I could be covering. There are other things I could be doing with my time. I don't want my face, my name, or my reputation tied up with all of these people who do this wild nonsense. You know what I mean? But as far as this neighbor goes, and as far as these people who are affected, I feel bad for them, because it's something that's totally not needed. You know what I mean? It's bad enough that this situation happened to their classmates, to their friends, to their neighbors. They don't need to be thrown in the middle of all this madness. So I definitely feel bad for them. But that's where we're at as far as the true crime community goes. The next case will be the same, and the next case after that will be the same as well. I don't see it changing. What I see is I think YouTube's going to come in here and they're going to crack down on true crime, just period. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. People have gotten so insane that they're camping outside of people's houses. They're doxing them. They're showing up at their jobs. They're getting in the middle and tampering with open investigations. It's insane. But this is not the only person that spoke out about Bryan Kohberger this week. There are other interviews that I want to go over in future videos, so I will be hard at work doing that today. So while you're here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be notified when those videos upload. But for now, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell. And as always, remain opinionated.